Hi, welcome to Westside Library's virtual children's art class for September. This month we will be making a mixed media Mexican folk art chicken. Part of the reason why we're doing a Mexican folk art piece this month is because we are in National Hispanic Heritage Month. National Hispanic Heritage Month runs from September 15th to October 15th. And as part of Westside Library's celebration of National Hispanic Heritage Month, we will be making our folk art chicken. All right, so a little bit more about folk art and Mexican folk art specifically. So what is folk art? Folk art is really art done by the people for the people. In folk art, people with not any real artistic training decorate handmade items that are functional. For example, quilts. Quilts can be beautiful, they can be work of art, but they are also functional. You can use them as blankets. They cover you up and keep you warm. Often folk art is created anonymously. We don't know who makes it, but we can identify it by a region or ethnic group. Going back to quilts, for example, like Amish quilts. We can identify that it's an Amish quilt based on the quilt pattern, by the colors used. We can tell, okay, did it come from a group in Ohio versus Pennsylvania for those same reasons. So Mexican folk art. What is Mexican folk art? Mexican folk art is folk art that's located in Mexico. It's very diverse. Mexican folk art covers things like textiles, leatherwork, pottery. Mexico's a big country. Some of the hallmarks of Mexican folk art are the use of bold and bright colors, geometric designs, and often the patterns and colors used have their roots in the pre-Columbian indigenous people of Mexico. Basically, that is a really long way of saying basically the native people that were there before Christopher Columbus arrived had their own distinct culture with their own art. And as Spanish settlers came, they mixed their traditions from Spain with the traditions of the people already living in Mexico. And this is often reflected in what we now know as Mexican folk art. All right, so today we are going to be making our Mexican folk art chicken. If you look at our example, it uses bold, bright colors. It could be decorative on like a piece of pottery, a wood carving, a piece of textile. Basically, it's something that would beautify a functional everyday object. That's kind of what folk art is. It is something traditionally made by a group of people that decorates everyday objects. All right, let's get on with our art lesson. That's kind of a generalization of folk art. And so in your kit, you are going to get 2 pieces of drawing paper, a chicken template, and a pencil. 2 other things, and your watercolor for your background. So Other than the items in your kit, you are going to need good old crayons and a cup of water. All right. So there are two ways you can do this. One, you can color your chicken in with your crayons and cut it out and glue it onto your background that you've already painted with your watercolor once the watercolor is dry. Or you can actually take and draw your chicken and color it with your crayons and then paint your background. The really cool thing about crayons and also oil pastels, some of you might have these at home, either one would work, is that the wax on the crayon or the oil pigment and oil pastels actually acts as a barrier to the watercolor. So you don't have to worry about your watercolor seeping onto and mixing with the colors on your chicken. Either way you do it. So, as you can see in the first example, this is what your background looks like when you've applied your watercolor, and then this is your chicken. Mexican folk art, if you remember from our brief introduction, is known for very bright, vibrant colors. So the colors you want to use, think those really loud primary colors. Green, blue, purple, oranges, yellows, bright colors, bright, vivid colors. All right. So I am going to show you, first of all, how to draw a chicken. All right. Here I have a chicken already drawn and roughed in on my sketchbook. And so let's get drawing. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going with the idea that you are going to draw your own chicken. So how do you draw your chicken? So the first thing you want to do is take one of your pieces of drawing paper. The paper that's in your kit is called a mixed media paper. So it's a heavy weight. This paper is designed where you can draw on it, paint on it, and use watercolor. If you're ever using watercolor, you have to have a paper that says for use with watercolor. If not, if it doesn't say that, then the paper is going to be too thin, and the watercolor just soaks through the paper. So you can either, if you're ever working with watercolor, you either use something look for something that says for use with watercolors. The mixed media paper is one of those types of papers that can be used with watercolor. You can paint on it like canvas, you can draw. So it's a really good all-around paper. All right. So I have with me, as part of my drawing tools, I have pencil. I do have a separate eraser, but if you just have the one on your pencil, works great. And I have a little pencil sharpener. All right. All right. So first off, you are kind of going to fold your paper in half like this. And you're going to draw a line down the center. And you want it as straight as possible. Okay, and then you're going to just lightly fold your paper lengthwise, like this. And you're going to draw a line. Okay. And you're going to use these lines as a guide. On my sketchbook here, you can see my paper folded and broken down into those 4 quadrants. And that is even on the template you have. You can see that. You have the 4 lines. Okay. All right, so the first thing we're going to start with is the head. And if you look at your chicken, it's kind of U-shape. The head is kind of like a U-shape with some zigzag lines. And your zigzag lines, just think of it as making V's that you connect. All right. So in my first quadrant, I am going to take and make my U shape. And you don't want to put a whole, you want to keep your pencil lines light. So in case you have to erase. All right, so I kind of have like my U. So, and then I want to come down and I'm just going to lightly do some V's. All right. I want to make. All right. So I have my chicken neck. And okay, I'm looking at this and I'm not quite happy with this. I'm going to use my eraser. And I'm just going to make. Alright, so I have my chicken head, and now I'm going to make my chicken body. And so I'm going to come here, right here, kind of like right at this point, and I'm going to make an arch to about this point. And then right under about a little 4th ways up on that first V, I'm going to make like another shape. Okay, now I'm not really happy about how my top looks, so I'm going to redo that.
I didn't want to come in while I was on your room because I was afraid the door would open. Can I look at yours?
All right, so I wasn't quite happy with how my top is, so we're gonna go back. And we're gonna do our little thing. All right. And I came up a little further, so I'm gonna do. All right, so I got my chicken body. So it's basically that upper U and lower U meet up. And so I'm seeing some pencil lines. So I want to get in and try to get rid of those. That's why we always want to try to keep our pencil lines light. Which I'm actually probably going heavier than what I should, which I almost always do. All right. All right, so we have our basic chicken body. So we're going to take And we're going to draw some chicken legs. And we're just going to think of those as like a U shape again. So we got a chicken body. We're going to do some chicken legs. And we're going to do... Now we're going to come down and just draw a straight line. And we're going to have some chicken feet. All right. We got some chicken feet. All right, so right now our chicken, we got a chicken body, we got a chicken neck, got some legs and some feet. And now we're gonna add in some details. So our chicken looks like a chicken and not a really strange being from outer space with like chicken legs. All right, so onto our chicken head, we are going to add a comb up here. That's like the little frilly edge. And we're just going to think of this as doing another U shape. And we're just going to come up and do a upside down U here and do another upside down U and do another upside down U. And here, we're going to put in an eye. I don't really like that eye. Okay, and here, we're going to do a beak, which our beak is just a triangle. And then under here, we're kind of going to make another U shape, elongated U. And that is going to be his gobble. All right. Now, and this is like, you can go back. And sometimes first time you draw something, you're like, okay, that's perfect. I really, really like it. And then other times you're just like, So, I won't come. Okay. All right, we got our chicken. And now we get to do the tail. So, over here. Okay, I'm not really crazy how my tail looks. I'm not. I know, and it might seem like I'm erasing a lot or drawing again, but that's actually kind of like in art. That's what you do. It's like you draw something out and it's like, okay, I really like that. And then it's like, sometimes it's like, no, I don't like that. So I want my chicken. Okay. Okay. So I'm trying something a little bit different, which is actually how the originally when I drew this one, I did more so where you rough in an area. And then I break it up into segmented pieces. The other way, I'm like, it's starting to look too much like turkey feathers. Which, I love me some turkey. Turkey's good. It does do good. All right. So we got our tail. All right. So our tail is roughed in. And now we're going to start doing lines. And I'm doing it that way because when I color these in, I'm going to color, all of these are going to be multicolored. Okay, I want my tail to be skinnier. Okay. All right. And so we have our tail. Okay. So that's if you want to draw the chicken. And another way is if you want to take your template and just go ahead and color it in. I am actually, and then you'd color this, you would take your watercolors, you would paint your background first, let this dry, and then while this is drying, you would color your chicken with your crayons, and then you would cut this out and glue it onto your background. And it would look like this. For this example, this is how I did this one. Now, the one I have in my sketchbook, I am actually going to show you how I'm doing this one. This is, I drew one in, so this is the one I'm going to show you where we color it, and then we paint the watercolor on it. All right, so I want to go in and erase those lines. Okay. Alrighty. All right. And I am just using a 24 pack of Crayola crayons. I will admit, I really do like Crayola crayons. They're awesome. They're like readily available, they're good quality, but you know, anything you got at home, you know. All right, so So I think, and this is where you just kind of have fun and play with your colors. I am going to start off, I'm going to make this red because I know, and don't get hung up on the idea of trying to make your chicken look like an actual chicken. It's supposed to be colorful and bright. It is not how a chicken looks in nature. So, and I'm gonna do my gobble. I'm gonna do my gobble red. Let's see. Now, you know, now I did do my gobble and my comb and my beak yellow. I mean, that is for my head. Okay. My eye, I'm gonna color in my eye. I'm gonna do that black. Let's see, for the head, I think blue. There's quite a few blues in here, so. And something I'm doing here on my newspaper I have down is called a color swatch. And so I have like 4 blues in my 24 pack. And I'm like, what blue do I want to use? So what I'm going to do is color them on a scratch piece of paper. Here I have the newspaper. But what this does is called a color swatch, and it allows you to see, exactly what your colors will look like before you put them down on your paper. So, I think for this, I think I'm just going to do like blue, like straight up traditional blue. Or maybe, I don't know. Actually, ooh, I like the green. And I ended up doing something totally different. As I think what I'm going to do is do the green for the head. Okay. And with crayons, you want to, and this is coloring anything, you want to maintain a steady pressure. And then I had like this almost turquoise green. Which one? This is it. And keep in mind with folk art, you won't like, it's supposed to be bright colors. Okay. Okay, so how do I not lose my wing? This is one. So how do I not lose my wing? Okay, so this is where we go in with like the black crayon. And we highlight what we have. Okay. Alright. Alright. I'm just kind of going back over with that black crayon, and it's kind of like as an outlining. Okay. All right. So for the legs, I am going with an orange, and we have just red orange. And I'm just going to use my black crayon. All right, now for the tail, and this is where we can have fun. Okay, so our tail, we want it different colors. We want it to be colorful. All right. So I used a blue for my body, so I want some contrast in there. What we got? Orange. Let's go orange. Something I think I'm almost going to do this as a rainbow. So Orange, red. Red. Our good friend purple. Once again, as you're coloring, keep actually coloring anything. Crayons, markers. Okay. And we're going to go to blue. I'm going to use just a darker blue. I seem to be having an issue today where I am putting too much pressure on my crayons and breaking them in half. But it doesn't matter as long as we got a good sized chunk. We can go ahead. But anyway, when you're coloring anything with crayons, with markers, colored pencils, you always want to keep an even pressure and keep coloring in the same direction. And I got blue. Let's say we want to fade into a green. We want dark green. And then like blue green. Then like yellow, and then back to orange. Okay. And I'm going to go in with my black again and just kind of outline my tail. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So we have our crayons. I'm gonna put my crayoning bits. So you have a container of watercolor, and this is liquid watercolor. You want to just add a little bit of water, maybe about a teaspoon in there. And I'm just going to put my lid back on and shake it up. And you can add a little bit more water. You can add up to, there's about a tablespoon of watercolor in the container, and you could add up to 3 times the amount of water. All right, so I happen to have hot pink. Each kit has a different color, and I'm using a big brush. And you don't need very much on your brush. All right. I'm starting to come down. All right. And this is why I really like the crayons or oil pastels, because as I'm doing my watercolor paint and I'm getting on my picture, as you can see, the wax and the crayon acts as a barrier, so I can just paint right on top of it, and the watercolor isn't mixing with my picture. Oil pastels work the same way. See, actually, if you can see, it's like actually just beating up. Okay, and like with anything else, you want to keep your brush strokes going in the same direction. Okay. So what do you do with that beaded up watercolor? Well, so I'm just going to down on this. Okay. Okay, so what do I do for that beaded up watercolor? You just take a piece of paper towel, or in this case, I have like a newspaper here, and you just dab it to get the excess off. Or you can just kind of like break. So, I'll smooth out some bush strokes I have. Okay, so you have your Mexican folk art chicken on a watercolor background. All right. All right, thanks for joining me today for Westside's children's art class. I hope you enjoyed it and join us for next month. If you are interested in reserving a children's art kit for October, please give us a call at 318-442-2483. Also, I'd like to point out our books in front here. This is a small selection of children's and young adult books that we have by Hispanic authors. Also, a really great resource if you are looking for Hispanic authors is Hoopla. Under collections, there is a whole section dedicated to authors for Hispanic Heritage Month. All right, thanks and have a great day. Bye-bye.